I'm Rebecca Pigram, Public Information Officer for Rockingham County. Today, I am joined with Ms. Paula Seamster, the Director of the Board of Elections here in Wentworth, North Carolina. Paula, thank you so much for joining me today.
Well, thank you for coming down to the Board of Elections today.
Absolutely. So before we kind of talk about the Board of Elections and what goes on with this very important civic duty that we all have, let's talk a little bit about yourself and how you got into government work.
Well, I've been in government work, as you call it, for now 13 years.
Okay.
I served in a different role for 11 years in another county and wanted something a little bit different. Didn't know it would be this much different, but saw that Rockingham County had the Board of Elections Director's position available. I interviewed and here I am, and I've been here 2 years now.
Perfect, perfect. Well, thank you so much for all the hard work that you do. I know running an election, we all know that election seasons are never a cakewalk, but you're getting ready to walk us through just exactly what you guys go through every single year, multiple times a year.
Yes.
So let's first start off just a quick introduction as your job as the Director of Board of Elections. Let's touch on a kind of a broad understanding what you do.
Mainly, of course, I manage this facility here with our staff. We have 2 full-time staff members and over 200 temporaries that actually help us with our elections. And a lot of people don't understand what that means to be a temporary, but they're only needed when it's time for elections. But the other thing that I'm responsible for is making sure that all of our elections are fair, transparent, honest, and that everyone knows what's on the ballot, who the candidates are that's on the ballot. Of course, we don't promote one candidate over another, and just making sure that the citizens of Rockingham County know who and what they're voting for.
Gotcha. So you said a couple words. To me, they're like light bulb words. Fairness, transparency, honesty.
Yes.
Fairness.
Fairness.
Fairness. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. You do a wonderful job. Let's talk a little bit about County Board of Elections. You explained what your job is, so explain to everyone what the Board of Elections does and their responsibilities.
The Board of Elections actually is the body that certifies the elections. That's pretty much what they do. They make sure that our elections do balance at the end of election. They go out to all the different precincts to make sure that the ADA compliances are there for the election polling sites. We have monthly meetings to go over the different responsibilities that they have to go through the State Board of Elections.
So another big word for me is balance. I mean, fairness, transparency. It's just another order of operation, I guess you could say, to make sure that our elections are fair, that they're transparent, that everything balances. It's not one person that has control over everything. It's truly a balance in everything. So what else is the board responsible for?
Well, one of the big things they're responsible for is actually approving the budget for the Board of Elections. Once the budget's put together, they meet, they go through it, they see what's necessary, things that they may have to add to it, and then of course once that's approved by the Board of Elections, it's submitted to the county for their approval.
Paula, thank you so much. Let's go ahead and head in and kind of see what the inside of the Board of Elections looks like. Okay. Wow, this is a really pretty building. Okay, so now we are in the boardroom.
Yes, ma'am.
Board of Elections boardroom. So let's talk a little bit about, we talked about what goes on in this room. Let's talk a little bit about the different types of elections that go on both in the county, in the state, in the federal government? Let's
Yes.
talk a little bit about the different types of elections.
We have 3 different types of major elections. We have the municipal election, the primary election, and the general election.
Okay.
The municipal election we actually have in the fall of the odd numbered years.
Okay.
And they usually fall the first Tuesday after the first Monday in November.
First Tuesday, first Monday, November. Got
Yes.
it.
Yes, it's the Tuesday following the first Monday in November. And those elections are for our municipalities, and Rockingham County has 6,
Okay.
and which is Eden, Reidsville, Stoneville, Madison, Mayodan, and Wentworth.
Perfect.
And so those are the governing bodies that are actually elected during that municipal election. Then we have a primary election. The primary and general elections are held in the even numbered years.
Okay.
So the primary election, a lot of people don't think is as important as the general election, but it's just the opposite. The primary election is, I think, a little bit more important because you have a list of candidates. It may be 10 people for one seat and you need to narrow it down to one.
Absolutely.
Well, if you don't vote, you may not get the person that you're wanting in that position for the general election. So the primary election is usually held in March.
Okay.
Like I said, of the even numbered years, it's the same thing. It's the first Tuesday following the first Monday in March,
Okay.
unless they make changes. And that is constant with primary elections. It could be in May and not in March, depending on what's going on. It could be redistricting. Anything could cause election to be delayed. The general election is held in November of the even number years. Same thing, the first Tuesday following the first Monday in November.
Perfect.
And the general election is the candidates that won their nominations in the primary election.
Paula, thank you so much for that description. Elections and the different types of elections are very nuanced, so thank you so much for explaining that. That was chef's kiss perfect. We narrowed it down as much as we could. I want to talk a little bit about the districts and the precincts. You know, we talked about municipality elections. Let's describe a little bit about first district lines. I know that's a state thing, correct?
It is.
Okay, explain district lines first.
Okay. North Carolina has 14 districts.
Okay.
Rockingham County actually falls in District 6.
Okay.
Our House seat is actually House Seat 65,
Okay.
which is just Rockingham County. Our state Senate seat is Senate Seat 26, and it encompasses all of Rockingham County and the northern part and a little bit down into Guilford County. So anytime they do redistricting, those lines could be changed. So you really have to know what district you're in and what you're voting for on the federal level with the congressional, and with the NC House and Senate, you need to know what your district seats are.
Absolutely. It's so, again, it's just very nuanced, very technical, very minute little differences. Okay, so now let's talk about precincts. So that was like a broad generalization for federal and state. I'm assuming precincts are the same thing, but just for Rockingham County?
Just for Rockingham County, we
Okay.
have 15
Oh my
precincts.
goodness. Okay.
And they're divided up throughout the whole county. We
Okay.
have 4 precincts in Eden,
Okay.
6 in Reidsville,
Okay.
1 in Stoneville,
Okay.
1 in Ruffin, and 3 in the western part, which is the Madison area.
Gotcha.
We try to do that to make sure that all the residents in Rockingham County have something that is pretty close to where they live.
Absolutely.
And but during the municipal election, we only use 9 of those precincts.
Okay.
And that can be confusing because a lot of people think that just because they're a resident of Rockingham County, they can actually vote during a municipal election, and that is not the case. Unless they're actually in the city limits of those municipalities and actually pay taxes to those municipalities, they cannot vote during the municipal election.
So it's important to know where you live for those municipalities.
Yes.
Tell me what they are again. There's 6 of them.
6 of them. So you got Eden, you have Reedsville, you have Stoneville, Madison, Mayodan, and Wentworth.
Okay, so now that we know the types of elections that there are, where the lines are drawn literally, and when we can and probably shouldn't vote, let's maybe go look at where to actually vote, like the actual voting booth. Is that okay?
It's great.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so I see 3 different things in front of us right here. Let's talk a little bit about what they are. I mean, they are kind of vastly different in the technology that we kind of see or that are used to. Let's explain a little bit about each thing, for lack of better words.
Okay, the first thing is the voting booth. That is the first piece of, I guess, equipment
Okay.
that a voter would actually see. Once they've received their ballot, they will come into a room where there is multiple voting booths.
Okay.
In the voting booth, they will have pens, you'll have instructions. There's also a light if they need better lighting. And they'll actually put their ballot here on the platform and start marking their ballot. So, and once they're done, they move on to the machines.
Awesome. So before we move on to the machines, I wanted to touch a little bit on the privacy blockers. You know, we talked about honesty and transparency. That's the Board of Elections job for the citizens of Rockingham County and really anywhere that you go to vote. But, you know, sometimes elections can be hotly contested and you kind of want to keep that privacy as a voter. So it's kind of a safe area that you can go and really feel like your voice is heard while you cast your ballot. You know, the choices that you make, the people that you vote for, you can do it, you know, safely protected so that people aren't like looking over your shoulders. So I just wanted to highlight that a little bit because, you know, that's important. You know, our right to vote is important. Okay, so let's move on.
We have, you know, some of the residents in Rockingham County have hearing or visual or dexterity disabilities.
Okay.
So we have a machine here, which is not a ballot machine per se as far as counting, but it's a ballot marking machine.
Oh, wow.
So if someone has problems hearing, they can actually put these earphones on and it can be read to them out loud.
Wow, that's awesome.
So, also, if they have problems holding a pen and marking it, it might be for various reasons. This machine, they can actually mark it. We usually will have like Q-tips or something like that, where they can actually touch the machine and choose who they would like to vote for. We also have this pad that can help them determine, you know, they can use it to go up, down, and also you'll notice if you'll feel there,
yes,
you can
absolutely.
feel Braille. So if someone is visually impaired, they can feel the Braille and know how to make their selections. And they're also being told through the earphone,
Through audio.
what to do.
Wow, that's
Yes.
incredible.
Yes.
So it just goes to show that the ability to vote, you're not hindered. There's options. If there's some sort of disability, regardless what it may be, you still have the option, especially here in Rockingham County, to go and place your vote and have your voice be heard.
Yes.
Perfect. So now that we know how to vote, what happens after we vote? Like, and we fill out the ballot, then what happens? Tell me and the folks at home what goes on.
Okay, whether you're at the voting booth and you have the large ballot, or you've used the vote marking machine, the ballot will come out here,
Okay.
and then they move over to the DS200,
Okay.
which is this machine,
Okay.
which is a voting tabulator machine.
Okay.
And if you have used the vote marking machine, your ballot goes in here and it's fed through, and the screen will be up, and once it's put in here, you'll see that the numbers change. For every ballot that's put into this machine, it moves up one ballot. The regular ballots go here, the ADA compliant ballot goes here.
Perfect. So does this count the ballots as far as the actual voting, or just the number of ballots?
It actually counts the ballots at whatever precinct it is at.
Gotcha.
And it is put on a flash drive, and those results are actually sent to the Board of Elections once the closing of that day has happened.
Gotcha. So that way we can tabulate just how many people have voted at each precinct during each day during whichever election we're counting for.
Yes, ma'am.
Perfect. Well, it's very structured, very organized. I love that. So we've talked about the different types of elections, the jobs of the Board of Elections, your job, the actual board, and then we talked about how to vote. Is there anything for the folks at home that you would like to share that we might have missed along this journey?
A lot of people ask where they can register to vote.
Okay.
Of course, they can come here and register to vote. They can register through the State Board of Elections website. When you go to get your driver's license renewed, or you need to change your address, you'll be asked if you want to register to vote at the DMV.
Absolutely.
You can register to vote at any of our county libraries, as well as our public assistance agencies that are in the county. So those are all the different ways that you can register to vote.
What do you need when you register to vote?
The main thing that we require is we do like to have either your driver's license number,
Okay.
or the last four numbers of your Social Security number.
Okay.
We do verify that the individuals that are registering to vote in Rockingham County are residents of Rockingham County.
Absolutely.
So that's why we have to have that driver's license number or that Social Security number, because it goes through a database to verify that they are actually residents here in the county.
Perfect. So let's head outside and kind of wrap things up. But before we do that, Paula, thank you so much for this tour of the elections building. It's been very educational. You know, you saw me taking notes. You saw me trying to count. But thank you so much. Let's head outside and finish our tour.
Sounds good.
Perfect. Paula, thank you so much for this tour. It's been a pleasure to spend today with you. You've given us so much valuable information. Before we kind of wrap up, let's give the folks at home a reminder of where this building is. We are in Wentworth, right near the governmental center, but across the street from the animal shelter.
That is correct.
Perfect. So if anybody were to stop by, what could the information, they could get all the information that we've given you today, but what else can we get from the office here?
They can find out where their polling locations are. We also, when it's election time, we have sample ballots available.
Okay.
Before the elections, we'll have early voting dates on a calendar that they can stick on their refrigerator to remind them of where the locations are, what the times are, when they're open, when they're not. And if they want to check and make sure, I know a lot of our residents call and just make sure that they are still registered. We'll be glad to help them.
Perfect. And if they didn't want to come all the way out to Wentworth, North Carolina, what's a good telephone number that they could possibly reach you at the office at?
It's 336-342-8107.
Perfect. Paula, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been a pleasure. I know I just said that, but it really has. It's been very informative, and thank you so much. If you guys at home have any questions about the Board of Elections or anything that goes on in Rockingham County, feel free to give me a call, your public information officer, at 336-589-0967.